Hi there. So we're going to be talking today about ways that you can apply percent. So we've already talked about how you find the percent of a number, how you use the percent proportion to find the percent. But percents are used in a ton of different ways in the real world. And so we want to see just some of the most common ways that you would use percent. It's really, this is going to seem like a lot maybe at the beginning, but it's really just applying the same process over and over again. You just have to know, is this percent something that's going to be added or subtracted based on what you're doing? All right, so hopefully these things will be common to you. Tax is just something we all have to pay to the government, right? But it's usually found as a percent of a price. All right, so let's go ahead and open this up and we can fill that in. Tax is the amount charged by who? Usually it's the government. For whatever item you purchased. And so tax, is that going to make, one thing you want to maybe to help you figure out if you're going to add or subtract it is just think, does tax normally when you pay for something, does the tax make your costs go up or down? Well, taxes, if you're buying taxes or if you're paying for something and you have to pay taxes in addition to the cost of the item, you're going to have to add the tax to the cost. All right, so to find the tax, you're going to use these steps. Change the percent, and we're just going to make it short and sweet. Percent to a decimal, and then you're going to multiply. You're just finding the percent of a number. Change the percent to a decimal and multiply. So here's an example here. It says find the total cost of a $15 shirt if the sales tax is 15%. So I'm going to follow these steps, change my percent to a decimal. So I'm going to move it over, remember, 2 places, so 0.15, and then I'm going to multiply it times the cost or times the price. So $15 times 0.15. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry your 2. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7. Start with a 0. 1 times 5 and 1 times 1. This gives me 5, 12, 2, 2T5. And then remember, I've got 2 decimal places here, so I need to have 2 decimal places over here. So 2.25. So this is money, right? So if this is an amount in money, this is really what I'm saying is the tax is $2.25. All right? But that's not all you're going to pay for the item. You still have to pay for the shirt itself. So to find the total, you're going to add these two together. So I'm going to take the $15 shirt and add the tax to that to get the final or the total cost. So 5 to bring down your decimal, 7. So the total cost of the shirt with tax is $17.25. All right, that's one way you can use percent. Another way you're going to see percent used is when you're having to tip someone. Just a fancy word for tip is something called gratuity. You might see it sometimes, so I want you to see it here. But they basically mean the same thing. So you can kind of see the word maybe gratitude in that. So when you tip someone, you're kind of saying, you know, thanks for doing a good job. So that's kind of where that word comes from. All right, so we open this up. Let's define it. Tip or gratuity is the amount paid in appreciation of some type of service. So think about when somebody gets a tip. If you get your hair cut, you tip somebody. If somebody waits on you in a restaurant, normally you would tip your server. So what does that do to the cost of, let's say, a meal? If you leave a tip for the waitress at your table after you've eaten, did you end up paying more for your meal with the tip, or did you pay less? Well, tip is going to be added to cost because you're going to have to pay for your food, plus you're going to have to pay the tip. All right, so define tip. Same process as before. Change your percent to a decimal and multiply. So here's an example. John paid $30 for his meal and left a 20% tip. And that's really a common amount for a tip. Even 15% sometimes, but 20 is becoming more common now. John paid $30, so if I want to find his total cost, first thing I do is change my percent to a decimal. So if I move my decimal, I have 20%. If I move it over 2 places, now I have 0.20. I need to multiply that times the cost. So 30 times 0.20. So if I start by multiplying the 0, 0, 0, and then starting in my second row with a 0, 2 times 0 is 0, and 2 times 3 is 6. Add those up. And then don't forget, you have 2 decimal places here, so I need 2 decimal places here, so that's going to put it between the 6 and the 0. And then that is in money, so my tip is actually $6. And then you have to find the total. So again, think about what is tip going to do. Is it going to increase the cost? Is it increase the amount of money you paid for your meal? Yes, it is. So you're going to be adding to the $30 that your meal cost plus the tip to get $36. All right, so my total cost is $36. All right, so that's the second way you can use percent. Another way we're going to look at percent is when there's a discount, or this can also be called a markdown, or even something on sale. And you see this all the time, especially around the holidays. If you go shopping, you're going to see 30% off, or take 25% off of this item. So those are all kind of the same way, same words for the same thing. But a discount or markdown is really just the amount deducted from price when an item is on sale. Okay, and so what is a discount or a markdown going to do for you? Well, it's going to decrease the amount that you pay for something. So this time, instead of adding to your cost, what are you going to do? You're actually going to subtract, right? All right, so let's write that down. Subtract. That should say from, not to. All right, so to find the discount, you're going to change your percent to a decimal. Do you see the pattern here? And then you're going to multiply. All right, so let's keep going. If you look at this one, find the cost of a $42 speaker. It's on sale for 30% off. All right, I changed my percent to a decimal, move it over 2 places. So this is 0.30, and then I'm going to multiply that times 42. All right, so I start with my 0, start with the second 0. 3 times 2 is 6, and 12. And I add these up, 1, 2, 6, 0. I have 2 decimal places here, so 2 decimal places here. So the amount of my discount is $12.60. So is the discount what you pay for the speaker? No, that's how much off of the speaker. So instead of adding this time, I'm going to subtract. So don't forget, you need to line up a decimal, which sometimes means you're adding a decimal and zeros in order to be able to subtract. I'm subtracting $12.60. So that's 0 on this one. I'm going to have to borrow. 10 minus 6 is 4. Bring down your decimal to borrow again. 11 minus 2 is 9, and 3 minus 1 is 2. So instead of paying $42, my new total is $29.40. All right, so a markdown. Is that what I want to do? Oh, I'm sorry. No, a markup. So discount, markdown, and sale all pretty much mean the same thing. So you could use the same process to do that, but they're all going to discount an item or subtract from the price of an item. A markup, there are 2 more that we want to look at, and these are down here, are markup and commission. All right, so a markup is different, right, than a markdown. A markup is what the store does when it sells you something. So they may buy a bunch of shirts, and they may pay $2 for the shirts that they buy, but then they turn around and they sell them for $5 or $15 or something like that. Well, the amount of money that they mark up the shirt and the difference between what they paid and what they sell it for is called a markup. And so a markup is added to a store's cost in order to find the selling price. So they have the cost, whatever they paid, plus whatever they're going to hope to keep by selling you the shirt to get the selling price. So this one, you're going to kind of treat it the same way. You're going to change it to a decimal, and then because you're adding it to the cost, it'll be added to the cost of the item. So the selling price of a $24 pair of shoes, we want to know what the store actually is going to charge for them. They are going to be marked up 12%, so I'm going to change that to a decimal, so 0.12 times 24. 4 times 2 is 8. 2 times 2 is 4. Start with a 0. 1 times 4. 1 times 2. 8, 8, 2. And there are 2 decimal places here, so 2 here. The amount of the markup is $2.88. Okay, that's not what they're charging you. That's what they're adding to what they paid. So I'm going to take the $24. Again, I may have to add zeros so that I can add my $2.88. Bring down your decimal. So the total cost for you, or what they sell the shoes for, is really $26.88, even though they paid $24. They have to make some profit so they can make money. All right, and then the last way we're looking at ways you can use percent is with something called a commission. So you may have heard commission used before. Commission is the amount that you add to someone's salary. Add it to salary based on items they've sold. So some people work for commission, or part of what they paid is based on how much they sell. So think about somebody who sells cars for a living. So they may get a certain amount of money just for going to work each day, but they get like extra money every time they sell a car. And that's called a commission. Or if you think of people who sell houses, I have a brother-in-law who's a realtor, and he may sell a house for whatever, $120,000, but then he gets to keep part of that money because of the work he did to make the house sell. And so that is called his commission. It's the part that he gets to keep. So commission, for a lot of people, is added to their salary, but it's based on something they sold. So cars or houses or something like that. Or it may be that you work in a retail store and you help people find clothes. And so maybe if somebody buys something in the store, then you get a percentage of whatever they pay for the clothes you help them find. So that's kind of commission. Some people work for commission only, which means if they don't sell anything, then they don't get any money. Some people have a salary plus they get money for their commission. So the more they sell, the more money they make. And then there are some people who just work for a salary. And so it wouldn't matter how much they sold, they're still going to get the same amount. All right, so in this problem, it says find a 5% commission on the sale of a $12,000 car. So just like before, to find commission, I am going to, or markup, I guess it's the same process. You're going to change percent to a decimal, and then you're going to multiply. All right, so I'm going to change 5% to a decimal. So if I change 5% by moving it over 2 places, I have to add a 0 there. So don't forget about that. So this becomes $12,000 times 0.05. When I multiply by 5, I get 0, 0, 0. 5 times 2 is 10. Carry your 1. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 1 is 6. And then I've got 2 decimal places here, so I'm going to move it over 2 decimal places here. So the commission is $600. All right, so what that means is if I am a car salesman and I sell a car for $12,000, then the people I work for say I get 5% of that price. So if I sell it for $12,000, then that means I get to keep $600 of that. And then if I get paid maybe $200 a week for showing up to work, then I'm going to add my commission to my $200 to get my total salary. In this case, I don't know what the salary is, so we're just looking for commission only. But that's a nice little amount of money for selling one car. Not bad. All right, so that's the last way. We're looking at ways you can apply percent to different types of real-world problems. So give them a try. All right.